How many times can we say follow up in one?
I know. That's why I was like, I said it too many times. I can't do this.
Just
Right in my face.
Just slow down.
I know. I get so nervous. Welcome to this week's episode of The Follow-Up, where we recap this week's sermon so you can grow deeper in your relationship with Jesus. I'm here with Pastor Jack.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so excited for you to be here today. And to kick things off, we're going to do a 60-second recap. You've done these in the past, I think you can. I mean, we probably know it's going to be shorter than 60 seconds.
I'm warmed up. I should be good to go.
Okay, sounds good. So we're going to get started in 3, 2, 1.
So we're talking about the high priest, who is Jesus. And the series has been fun because you've got prophet, priest, king. Prophet compares to Moses. Priest compares to Melchizedek, who we're going to talk about in a little bit when you ask me that question of what I'd like to cover.
Yes.
And looking at Jesus as the high priest goes from the Old Testament into the New Testament, and understanding that we have a high priest who gets us, a high priest who gives us a better covenant, a high priest who goes before us in prayer and intercedes on our behalf, and then a high priest who not only offers a sacrifice, but is the sacrifice. So when we understand that this isn't just a job for Jesus, it's not a job description, it is his high calling, and he does it on our behalf. So that is a huge wake-up call to us to realize what a blessing Jesus is on our behalf.
That was so good. And so succinct, kind of covering all the different pieces of where we're going in this sermon series too. So as you were prepping, and I know you got a lot to share on this, so I'm really excited about this. There was this piece that just couldn't make the cut. Right. Can you share a little bit what God's been laying on your heart in this area? I
learned a lot in this one on Melchizedek in particular. And he's such an interesting character. And I found a quote from St. Augustine that kind of sets the tone for this whole series, but I think it helps us understand Old and New Testament parallels a little better. He says, "The old is in the new revealed, the new is in the old concealed." So in other words, the Old Testament, we see the New Testament, it reveals what was in the Old Testament. And the New Testament is the Old Testament, it kind of conceals it still. So that's what Melchizedek is. We've got this guy who's only mentioned one time. It's in Genesis chapter 14. And it's only two verses. And in 2 verses, he's done. He shows up as Abraham is finishing a battle, and he blesses Abraham. This is before there are priests, the priestly order in the temple. And Abraham gives him a tenth or a tithe. So he is a priest before priest. He's not from the lineage of Aaron. And he blesses as a priest. So it's cool to see everything in place before Aaron becomes a priest. Now, Aaron becomes a priest. It's based on the Levitical law. It was put in order. It's for the people, but it's not perfect. And in it, we see in Psalm where David is saying, man, there's going to be a better priesthood. There's going to be something better than what we see with Aaron. And it's a reference to Melchizedek. Melchizedek, his name means king of righteousness.
Yeah.
We see Jesus in that. And he is the king of Salem. He's the king of peace. So we've got righteousness and peace as trademarks of this new priest, who is Jesus.
Right.
And then we go into everything we talked about this weekend from Hebrews, really, chapter 5 through chapter 7, which even though he only gets a few verses in the Old Testament, he gets full chapters in Hebrews in the New Testament. A few verses in the Old Testament, and it's a direct correlation to the priestly lineage that Jesus is. So, like I said, I learned a lot in this, and especially for a character from the Old Testament we don't usually hear too much about.
Yeah, that's really awesome, too, just to see all the little connections of God choosing to use what would seem like on the outside, like so insignificant, of like just 2 different verses, to then actually just wait. Something so much better is coming. And I think we see that so often throughout the Bible of God just choosing smaller people and then using them for mighty, mighty ways and just different big ways in the future that we don't know what's coming.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, even we look at Jesus coming as a baby that seemed so insignificant, and it seemed very confusing to a lot of people. And now just to see so much that has come, obviously, of Jesus.
From Nazareth, everything that you would say he shouldn't count.
Right.
Where he was born, when he was born. He didn't take over, so when we get to King, which will be covered this week, we see that it's not the kingship everyone expected.
Right.
So in prophet, we see the comparison to Moses. In priest, we see the comparison to Melchizedek. In king, there's a comparison to David. And then it's cool because on Christmas Eve, we'll talk about him being God, which in the Old Testament is a comparison to God. Mm-hmm. We're going to see that the lines are drawn from what we think we understand to what Jesus becomes the embodiment of.
Oh, it's so awesome. It's so cool. Just all the different pieces that are coming together in the sermon series. So as we are wrapping things up with this specific week, what do you see as the best takeaway for somebody after listening to this week's sermon?
I would say two things. First of all, we're going to link down below a video to Jesus as the high priest. And I think it'll be helpful. It's about a 5-minute video if you get the chance to watch it. It's insightful. It goes a little different direction than we did Sunday. It's not contradictory, but it's a great picture of Jesus as priest. So get a grasp on that. Mm-hmm. Realize Jesus, once again, is more than a baby that's an icon for a holiday.
Right.
He is, when he came in the flesh, he fulfilled so much of the Old Testament and the promises of God and the blessing that is for us. It's not just so we can check a box saying that was done. We have such a better covenant, such a better understanding and possibility of a relationship with God when we lean into our high priest. That's kind of what I would encourage as the takeaway is understand what Jesus has done for us, know the forgiveness he's offered us, and the price he paid for that forgiveness.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jack, for joining us today for this week's episode of The Follow-Up, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Follow-Up. If you are not already subscribed, go ahead and do so you never miss an episode that comes out. And then 2 things before you go. If you are enjoying this content, go ahead and give us a like, and then leave us a comment of the thing that stood out to you most.
I also want to invite you on Christmas Day to join us for our Christmas service. We're going to be doing Christmas service online at 9 a.m. And I want to give you a special invite because we'll be shooting it from my house. So you'll be in my living room and you'll even get to meet my dog Daisy. So we'd love to have you join us for our 9 o'clock service. We also will be streaming our Christmas Eve service at 1:30. Once again, that's 1:30 Christmas Eve. If you'd like to come in person, we'd ask that you just let us know. There's going to be a link below where you can let us know what service you're interested in coming to. We hope you have a Merry Christmas. And once again, thanks for joining us this week.
See you in the next one.